if I were to choose to have only two lights, this will be it. Hello and welcome back to another Gatsby video. Today we are gonna talk about yet another lighting video. So to actually understand how the light works, well, it's just like you have your canvas, like when you were at school in kindergarten, maybe you have your white canvas and you have your crayons and your colors and you start painting. And one of the things that I personally did was that I didn't want to any white point in the canvas was left white, so I painted all over it, and that's how I see lining, you know. But in this time I really do have intentional white, which is intentional black, so darkness and shadows actually do help create a little bit more contrast for my perspective. So I invite you to think about your frame as a white canvas, and light is the color, or it's what you use as your pencils and your brushes to actually give color and light to your canvas. So each light you need to treat it independently. I think that's the best way to actually start to understand how your lights work and how your modifiers perform, so you can actually see what you're getting out of it. And sometimes if you just set up different lights and turn them all at the same time, you won't be able to see what you're actually getting from that light, and you won't know if you can actually get something better out of it. You have to adjust the brightness, or if you have to adjust the angle, the position, or whatever. So the process of creating scenes is going step by step, going by one, and obviously white balancing and setting everything up in the camera and stuff. But this video is gonna be quick and it's gonna be about lighting setup. Okay, so we are assuming that you already have your camera set to whatever specs you need to be, your aperture, your ISO value, your shutter speed if you're recording 24, 25, 30, 60, 50 FPS, whatever you're doing, you need to have your camera already set. And also your white balance. Quick tip here: when you're white balancing, be sure that you only have your key light and you have your gray card or your color checkerboard at the same position that your face is gonna be. Because if you're white balancing and then exposing to that gray card or to that checkerboard, well, you want your face to be in that plane that you are balancing. So quick tip, as I mentioned, this video is not about white balance and camera setup, it's just about light. Okay, so right now you can see what I have right now, which is one key light here at about 45-degree angle and 45 degree if you imagine a little sphere surrounding me. So it's at this plane, it's 0 degrees, right? So it's about 45 degrees and also 45 degrees in this direction, right? And the tip that I was about to mention is, and I think I mentioned it already, I don't remember, is you need to white balance solely to your key light. If you have other lights on, maybe some color or maybe some light from that light is gonna cast into your gray card, and that can mess up a little bit the reading on your camera. If you are more advanced, I don't know why you're watching this video. This is more like for beginners because I'm a beginner. I'm not considering myself an intermediate or an advanced user or filmographer. So just keep that in mind, that the 80% of the work when setting up a camera and shooting a video is done at the time of the production. It's not done at the post-production. You can make some, you can recover stuff. You can, if you messed up a little bit, you white balance like 100 or 200 degrees Kelvin, well, it's easy to fix. But if you just film like at 2500 when you should be filming at 5500 Kelvin, well, maybe you can get away with it, but it's not recommended. You need to have all your production when you're shooting set properly. Let's go back to the topic. So light, 45 degrees, key light. I have this kind of a hair light, fill light in this side, which is my SL60W with an 55 centimeters dome modifier with 2 layers of diffusers and a honeycomb grid. So that's my second light. If I have to choose only 2 lights to shoot this video, I will definitely prefer having this one pointing at me, right? My key light and my fill light, and have the background all black. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna make that exercise right now. I'm gonna turn off my Zhiyun 5-ray F100, which is 100 watt strip light. I'm gonna turn that off. And as you can see, it changes a little bit. It doesn't have that color in the background, but still I'm well exposed, I'm well balanced. If you only have two lights, use them to light yourself from one side and from other. Maybe the other one be right at the top, or maybe the other one to fill your shadows. So the other light back there, I'm gonna turn that one off. I know that you know now what I'm going to, so I'm gonna turn one light at a time by one, so you can actually see how each light is performing, right? So let me turn this, I call that one the rim light because it's actually creating some cast in this side of my face, and I'm actually feeling a little bit of the background, so it's a double purpose light. That one is achieved because I set it at a certain angle that is giving me that result, right? So it's intentionally positioned at that angle, at that position, right? And it's intentionally set to that brightness. So everything, every light, remember you are painting a canvas. So every single stroke with your pencil, with your brush, needs to have a meaning. You know, you need to know what you're doing. So that light is doing exactly what I said it to do. So I'm gonna turn that off. So that one, I didn't mention it, but it's a newer 240, 260 LED panel. That one, as this one right here, the Zhiyun 5-ray F100, it's not a Bowens compatible light, so you are kind of limited with what you can do with it. So if you are on the deciding what kind of light to get, and if this is your very first light, I really highly recommend to get maybe a one RGB light with white bicolor white LED, so you can actually get colors and you can actually get white, but at different temperatures. I don't know if I would recommend going with a bicolor only. I know those ones are cheaper compared to the RGB ones. So if it's a first light, get an RGB light, right? That you have white with different colors. And if it's your second light, don't spend money on an RGB, you know, but just consider having a better second light that you can get that one to be your key light, and then your RGB can use it as a fill. You get me? So the first one needs to be an RGB so you can have multiple options and colors. The second one has to be a good bicolor light, right? That you can use that now as your key light. And the first one you get, now you use that one as your fill light, because you can get like different colors and you can create, you know, your fill color can be not white, but red, blue, or whatever it is in the range of the RGB light. So let me know what you think about in the comment down below. I think that's a good advice. If I were to start purchasing equipment again, I think that I would definitely follow that line, you know? So my first light was, well, if you watch the other video, my first light was like one light that is used to lead the backyard. It's like a Technolight light, 25 watt. It was like a bluish hue tint to that color. It was like a 6500 Kelvin with a blue tint to it. It was awful, but since I knew that I need to balance my colors and my whites and all that, even though that light performed pretty well and I get pretty good videos when that time was that I was using that light. But the first kind of professional production, semi-professional production light was the SL60W. So my first light was fixed 5600 Kelvin light. This one, depending on the power output, kind of gets hotter or cooler, the LED, so it changes a little bit the temperature. So be aware of that too. So consider that depending on the level output, if for example you set your lining to 25% and you white balance to that 25% of your key light, and then for some reason something changed, or you changed your mind and you decided to overexpose a little bit and you increase that brightness to maybe 70%, I will strongly recommend to rebalance, because I'm 100% sure that it's gonna switch a little bit. I know maybe this is only for like semi-professional lights that doesn't have like the CRI and all those characteristics very fine-tuned. Maybe professional light doesn't suffer from this characteristic, but If you're in the same position as me and you're using like mid-level or low-level professional lighting for your videos, consider obviously rebalance every single time that you change your power output. So going back to the backwards of turning off every single light, now we have only two. As I mentioned before, if I were to choose to have only two lights, this will be it. Like having my key light right here to light me the 80% of me, and my fill light the other 25, the other 20%, you know. But if for some reason I really want to start now and I only have one light, well, definitely I would choose to get my key light only and just forget about the fill light. Obviously, in this scenario, you're getting a little bit too much darkness in your scene. If you're using the technique to expose your camera at maybe, you know, the ETTR, the expose to the right technique, and you're looking for a +2, just be careful when you are having like these kind of scenarios that you only have yourself lit and the background is just plain dark and there's no light coming to it. Because when you are doing the ETTR technique, you are overexposing to the already underexposed background. So I think it's better to have a little bit more noise in your I mean, I think it's better to have cleaner shadows with lower ISO values than having to compress that information in post and you are damaging your skin colors. I know this kind of sounds complex, but as I mentioned before, 80% of the job on coloring and exposing it's done during production. So if you are doing like a crazy shift in exposure in your NLE, well, maybe you need to think and rethink how you're shooting your scenes, right? So ETTR works, in my experience, when your scene is overall lit the same way. Let's say when you're shooting outdoors, you're in a wedding and it's gonna be the first look of the bride in the groom, and you have like a overall same exposed image. You have your sky that is super bright, and you have your shadows back there in the background in the woods where there's not much light coming to it, but there's some light to it. So that scene, as I mentioned, it's balanced. Right now, this scene right here, it's not balanced at all. I'm just lit with one key light and the background is super dark. So that's why I mean when exposing, just be careful. That's why if you're using one light in a studio setup like this and you want to get the best possible colors for your skin, because hey, it does affect if you have your logarithmic curve. Right now I'm filming in S-Log3 and you have your log curve where your shadows are expanded so you get more detail there and your highlights are compressed. So if you overexpose your skin tones, you're compressing the color information there, and when you try to recover that, your skins are gonna look kind of funny. I know that because that happened to me. This that I'm telling you, I'm not inventing it. I suffered it, and that's why I'm sharing it. So consider it when doing this kind of one light exposure technique. I really rather have my gray card and place it right here and expose to the gray card. Not even exposing to my skin tones, exposing to the gray card so I can be actually back there in the camera setting it up, you know, like this. And you can go and work in the camera so you can actually get the best possible exposure here. So right now I see in Zebras at this side of the gray card, I set it up at 41% IRE ±1 so I can have a little bit of a range. Actually in the Sony FX3 that's the minimum you can get, -1, so you can get like a broader look to the Zebras. So I know that the gray is exposed correctly. Also at this same position I did the white balance, so I know that I'm in a good position right there. So that's what I recommend. If you only have one light, you don't have well lit overall your scene, you only have one light pointing towards you, maybe it's better to rely on a gray card and doing the exposure using Zebras, or maybe external monitor. If you have like false color, that one also works pretty well because you can focus on exposing the skins, and that's way better. So as I mentioned, when I started the video, I talked about the white canvas. So my point was that it's very important also that when you start painting your canvas is actually white. In this case, your canvas should be all dark. You know, your scene should start from zero light and you start adding light so you can color it. If you had like maybe one ceiling light that you think it doesn't affect, it does affect. So make sure that you work with a clean white black canvas, you know, and start from it. So I just want to make the example, just a quick seconds. I'm going to turn off my key light and well, you see that there's nothing to see here. So that's what I meant when you need to start from a white canvas. Maybe you saw something because my computer screen is on. Let me just turn that off completely. Now we're on pure black. So this is the true darkness that I mentioned when you need to start adding lights to your scene. So there we go again, your key light. So you start from your white dark canvas, black canvas, and start adding lights. This is the key light. I'm gonna turn on the Honeycomb Grid SL60W fill light. This one, I really don't remember at what power output is set, and I really don't think there's a correlation in like it's at 100%, so it's 60 watt out, but if it's at 50%, it's not like it's at 30 watt out power output. So don't rely on percentages, you know, because if you modify a little bit your ISO value or you modify the distance of the camera or whatever, that's gonna affect how the lights actually performs. So just use the percentage of the power output as a reference, but just tend to rely on what you actually getting. So I'm gonna turn off my key light so you can actually see what this fill light is actually doing. Right now it's not set at its position, as I mentioned. It's lower down so I can actually reach for the turn on and off option here. So I'm gonna set it up to where it's actually need to go. So right there, right at off frame, so you don't actually see it. My hand is just right here. There you go. So that's the fill light. So you can see how it lights a little bit of my hair from this side and also fills all this side of my face. So if I turn on my key light, now you have me completely lit and I don't have that dramatic split in my face of light and shadow. I'm going to turn on now solely the background light, the red rim light, you know, the one that I have over my left shoulder, so you can actually see how that one looks alone. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off the fill light and the key light after I turn on the rim light. Again, I don't know at what level is that one set. I know that I set it like to the maximum in the brightness knob and then dial it down a little bit. Maybe it's at 70, 80%. That one specifically, it's a very cheap light. I mentioned it's a 220 LED panel from Neewer. It doesn't have that much of configuration to it. So you can change color temperature. That's one good thing about it. It goes from 2500 to 55 or 6000 Kelvin. And yeah, well, you get that bicolor, as I mentioned, is very important. So this is what that light is actually doing to the scene. So I'm going to turn on now the key light. Now you have me over there. You are familiar with this look. And now I have my fill light turned on. So this is now a 3-light setup. If I have to decide if I want that one over this one right here, I think I prefer having something more flexible that can actually give me some light, as I mentioned, like the rim light here, the edge over my shoulder and my head. I think I'd rather have that I can actually point that to the background instead of having something more restricted like this Zhiyun 5-ray F100. This one for very specific scenarios, it's great. I love it. But for this kind of situation, it's more like a last resource to maybe light some place in the scene that it's too dark, you know? So if I have to decide between those two lights, I would definitely prefer that $50 light over this $250 light. So from my perspective, okay? Let's just turn that one on again. Okay. there you go. So that's the 5-ray f100. Set it at blue. It's in the hue, saturation, luma. It's not luma. Is it luma? HSI, right? At, I don't know, 200 degrees, whatever that means. I think that means it's blue. And yeah, so one last time, let me turn everything off so we can actually see solely that light. So key light off. Red rim light off. And last, the fill light. So this is what only the 5-ray f100 is doing. So it's a background light and it's doing its job. I can actually modify or color my canvas with some options here, because this specific light comes with some modifiers. This one have some barn doors reflectors, so I can modify how that light is gonna show. So if I close the doors of the barn doors, I can get some kind of cool effect. You know, I mean, that's not intentional. Well, it's intentional, but it's just some flaw design of the barn doors. But hey, you see, it kind of works. So I'm just gonna set it up again as it was, so you can see now the final background light. Let me just turn everything back on. There goes the key light. That's the fill light. And that's the second background light, rim light. So I don't want to extend this video more than it needs to be and what it actually has been now. I really hope you enjoy it. I really enjoyed making this, sharing these live events of me in my journey of understanding lighting setup. I know that I'm not perfect and there's way too much work to be done still. I know that I'm using multiple lights, but you can actually use reflectors or whiteboards or blackboards to modify the light still and get pretty good results. So instead of, for example, spending money on 2 lights, you can actually spend some good money on your fill light and just get like a reflector board, so you can set it off the screen to feel a little bit of your side, and that can actually work too. So, you know, when you understand how you can actually work with light and how you can modify it, it becomes a little bit more fun to actually create different scenes. For now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I see you in the next one. Bye. Oh, I'm still recording. Sorry.